What's up? What's going on, everyone? It is WrestleZone coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube on demand, wherever you are. Don't forget to hit the like button. All you have to do is press like. You don't have to pay for anything to just hit that button that says thumbs up. And then we defeat our greatest enemy of all time in the internets, the algorithms. So much wrestling news to get in today. Wrestling fans at wrestling events in 2020, and I'm talking about a lot of them at one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year. We'll be talking about that in just a few minutes, so don't click away. Also, the Raw ratings are in, Retribution is on the run, and your questions are on screen. This is today's WrestleZone wrap-up. I'm Kevin Kelm. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Kev Kelm. Follow him, Robert DeFelice, at Dude Felice. Robert, we got a lot to get into today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Well, you know what? That's slight embellishment. It's a Tuesday, folks. It's a
little light on news, but we do have some big news for the future. I do think this is a big story for the future of wrestling and just the future of everything.
But it's not a big story for the future of America. It's a big story for the future of another country.
Yes, it is a big wrestling story, though. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Of course, we have all the developing stories, everything going on with Survivor Series. We're developing to that over at WrestleZone.com. And, of course, this week's Impact Wrestling. They're rolling off Bound for Glory. Looks like they'll have an interesting episode tonight. I've heard some very, very interesting things about it if you're a fan of them. But let's jump into our lead-off story. If you're just joining us, New Japan Pro Wrestling made a massive announcement today in an article in Tokyo Sports. They are going to run the Tokyo Dome. We've known that they're going to do that for a while, but this is a little bit more clarification on what a show like that at that scale could be like. Now, it's worth noting that New Japan Pro Wrestling has been running the largest attended live wrestling events during the pandemic throughout Japan for the past few months, including the G1 Climax tournament won by Kota Ibushi. That was a month-long series of events, and most of those events were attended by crowds anywhere from around 3,000 to 4,000 people spread out. Events, everyone's masked, no one's screaming or cheering, everyone can clap and stomp their feet. They were literally told fans, do not cheer, so you don't express too much germs into the air, right? So...
Beautiful people they are. They care, Kevin.
They do care. They do care quite a bit. So New Japan Pro Wrestling, their new president confirming that the capacity for this event at the 50,000 limited capacity of Tokyo Dome, one of the biggest stadiums in Asia, will be 20,000 people. So 20,000 people spread out in a stadium of 50,000. They didn't give any more specifics on how that's going to look or what that's going to feel like, but that is a lot of people to see wrestling during a pandemic, isn't it, Robert?
Yeah, but here's the deal, Kev. And regardless of how we all feel one way or another, the reality is they stopped doing shows in March, and they stayed away for over 100 days until they felt safe as a country, as a people, and they feel safe to do this. And I'm willing to bet that even at the expense of Wrestle Kingdom, if the numbers go up,
this could change.
This could change because, this is a culture of people who, let's call a spade, they have been more ingratiated with mask culture and just more sensitive towards, hey, let's reduce the spread than we have been, and that's why we don't know what our WrestleMania is going to be, but the limit for Wrestle Kingdom is 20,000 people. That's a real, that should say where we are as a people.
And obviously the question then comes, well, how does this affect the rest of the pro wrestling industry? How does this influence, obviously, WWE and AEW? Do they make the leap in 2021? The science is looking like this in the last 24 hours. If you don't follow legitimate news, these are legitimate sources. I know with the internet, everyone says reality is reality. Don't tell me that. That's not the news I want to hear.
Legitimate news. Here's WrestleZone. Go on, Kevin.
Yes, we're a wrestling website. We're not going to give you real news. We want to talk about who won the matches last night. But so much of what we do is blending into, real things happening and real life issues. It looks like a vaccine is close to being called in at some point and being verified, at least overseas. And and one of the major candidates is close to doing that. Pfizer is pretty close, as well as the University of Oxford candidate is pretty close to being completed. And they can be rolled out. Then now that doesn't mean the regular person gets this vaccine by the time that would line up with WrestleMania in the spring of 2021. Now, this also obviously doesn't line up with the time that you would get that vaccine in Japan in early January. The Tokyo Dome is going to run January 4th and January 5th. 20,000 different fans. We don't know if fans can go to both events either, too. I don't know if you can buy a single ticket. They haven't clarified that yet. So it's a very interesting period, but I do think once a vaccine starts to come out, are we going to see a rollout of more people feeling more comfortable to go to wrestling events and more people promoting wrestling events with some limited audience, some partial audience? There's going to be a transition period back to life as it once was.
What transition period? GCW is running as normal. What we're going to see is more carefree nature from pro wrestling, because pro wrestling's continue to run. Listen, we have spoken to, I know you've done AEW shows. Sean Ross Sapp spoke to Brett Lauderdale of GCW. They want to continue running, and these shows are going to happen one way or another. It's just a matter of, will they actually be safe to go to? Will we get the green light from, the media that says we can live again?
I think there'll be this transitional period because there'll be such a wait to get the vaccine. It's going to take a lot. It's not like, all right, we got it and everyone gets it. It's going to take a long time for regular people to get it. If you're not,
most people aren't going to understand.
Yes, most people aren't going to understand. They're going to get very frustrated, and they're going to blame somebody for it, right? Savan Pavar at Sexy and saying, will New Japan try to get American stars for these Wrestle Kingdom shows? It's always a common question. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom is the show for New Japan where, if fans don't watch it all year long, they're going to check out Wrestle Kingdom, and they're going to want to know what their favorites from the United States and Europe are doing on the show. I do think some foreign talents will be on the show. There are some that live in Japan right now. I know Juice Robinson lives over there and spends most of his time there. I know Jeff Cobb has been featured in the G1 Climax. I expect some, but not nearly as many big foreign stars I think will be featured on both these events.
Yeah, I don't think Moxley would be my guess. If travel
I don't think you'll see a Jericho match this year. He wrestled on it last year. And Moxley wrestled on the Wrestle Kingdom shows last year. I don't think we'll get one. I mean, I'd be surprised. Maybe it happens. But with the travel scenarios, getting overseas, getting tested, all those different things, that's hard. It's hard enough to travel to Japan when everything's normal, right? It's a long flight. But I can see it being very, very different right now. Very difficult.
Yeah, I think Moxley because he's got the belt, but maybe that's not a priority. Eventually, we're going to have to see some people do something,
Sean Smith saying Japan has experience with SARS. Some Asian folks have been walking around New York City. Of course, he has the Yankee logo, always texting the show from New York City. Thank you, Sean. Wearing masks and said, talking to friends I know that have attended wrestling events in Japan, even when things were normal, if someone has a cold, they wear a mask. If someone has a simple cold, they wear a mask,
Yeah, again, they're more ingratiated with that.
Yeah,
culture.
And that's ingratiated in their culture in general. And you wear the mask out of respect for other people. That's why you do that. As Stephen Chambers with a big question here. We notice how this big event, New Japan Pro Wrestling, how this will affect wrestling and WWE events in the future. We know WWE has looked at ideas and plans. There's been some speculative talk of what they would do with their major events. Steve Chambers wants to know, will we see fans for the Royal Rumble or extending the Thunderdome? We know Thunderdome, its residency in Amway Center could be done by the end of November. People think, do you take it out of Orlando? What do you do here?
Isn't it extended already?
It's extended into the end of November. We do know that. You want to double check on that?
Yeah.
The last thing I know we reported at WrestleZone right now was that they pushed it to at least a couple of days after the Survivor Series coming up on November 22nd. So what would happen with Raw and SmackDown and WWE Network pay-per-view events? Where will they be? Will they move the Thunderdome somewhere?
This is from John Alba of Spectrum Sports, who is a local reporter and does great work. Mm-hmm. As far as WWE Thunderdome goes, the absolute hardest date it has to move is by December 29th, because that's when the Orlando Solar Bears, which is beautiful.
When you think Bears, you think solar power, right?
I think that's amazing. Play at the Amway Center for the first time that night. If the NBA opens its season the week prior and uses home arenas, it will likely have to move beforehand. So it's all dependent on the NBA, the Solar Bears hockey team. It's going to be a very fluid, that is the word, boys and girls, situation until we're just all systems go.
Now, if we get this vaccine, I do think things start to open up a little bit. I think you'll have limited capacity events. I don't think you'll have big capacity events. I think you'll see maybe even a Raw or SmackDown with a limited amount of fans in some type of isolated venue as we get into a transitional period. This will be like the next stage as we work our way back towards a regular life, which it's not like green light go, guys. It just doesn't work that way because people aren't going to have the needle in their arm just yet. It's not going to work that way. So I wonder, though, I mean, this is moving a little bit faster than we expected. And I think for some people, it's kind of good that it's looking like you could go to a concert maybe by the end of the summer of next year.
Yeah, the type of concerts, like, listen, I don't know, I've never been to like a Ariana Grande concert, but like the type of things that I've been to, I wouldn't want to be in a little bar with people trying to mosh around.
You want to go to the pit, dude.
Like, no, what I'm saying is I don't want to see that. Like, that's just like really crazy. Because at least at a pop concert, at a top 40 concert, you can play a stadium and spread people out. It's not
that's teenage girls on top of each other. Like,
that's true too.
Yeah, come on.
That's true too.
I don't want that. You don't want any of that. So
I listen. I still say I don't want Mania season here in April. And
that's the talk. That's the talk. Is that WrestleMania would move back to Tampa Bay, Florida, Raymond James Stadium, limited attendance is the numbers we've heard. None of it confirmed officially by WWE
or by any of the other promotions that would undoubtedly run a collective.
Yes, and that would be a lot of independent companies would be jumping on that. Raw ratings came in from last night's Raw. We did our Raw post show. We weren't super big fans of this episode. We loved Hell in a Cell on Sunday. If you haven't checked out our Hell in a Cell pay-per-view post show and you just want to have a good time remembering that show, go check it out. It's available on Facebook, YouTube, and our podcast feed, or our Raw post show if you want to hear us talk about how mad we are with what they're doing with Retribution. That's available now as well. But the Raw rating is in, and the Raw rating is what, Robert?
So the Raw rating remains steady, as it will say in the thumbnail of this video. The Raw rating remains largely steady. It's down about 50,000. So it is down, but like when you're playing with these numbers, it's not as, I know the way we look at it, they're down, WWE's hurting, but realistically, they're under 2 million, they're about 1.7. But
if they're at 1.7, they probably had several segments in the show that clipped past 2 million. Then so I mean that's an average rating overall. Doesn't include obviously the YouTube numbers or your next day kind of people that watch on DVR. But considering the game they were up against Chicago, LA in a Monday Night Football game. In terms of Monday Night Football, that was a more interesting game this year, I guess, from some people I've talked to. And then you have the cable news cycle, which is just going to, if any of you guys are like, why did this happen to AEW or NXT? Why are the ratings like this? Get out of the bubble, guys. So the world is moving at a very furious pace. And we have an election next week. So cable news is wrecking people right now on ratings across the world. They're wrecking network TV on ratings as well. So you have a lot of people being thrown off by that. And other people with different questions like this. Here, you want to talk some COVID questions? You want to take a controversial COVID question?
Yeah, how controversial?
Okay. Logan Blade, big fan of the show. Thank you so much for texting. Logan says Trump's rallies are holding mass audiences. Why can't WWE have the same thing? Well, it's science. Science is the reason why that isn't happening. And also, the reason those mass rallies are being held really for political reasons. It's not being held for the health and safety of anyone who's attending it in mind. It's being held for political reasons. I'm not speaking for WrestleZone. I'm not making a political statement. It's being held for political reasons. And the reason WWE doesn't have fans at their shows is for health reasons. and liability and other things that they don't want to and be held for. I mean, someone can get sick at a WWE event with COVID, right? And then it becomes, well, I was at your event and you didn't tell me this was dangerous and all those different things. You've heard of the infamous story. You ever heard the story? There's a documentary. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's really good. Of the woman who poured hot coffee on herself from McDonald's. And they didn't tell her on the cup that it was hot coffee. So she sued them and made like millions of dollars. We now live in a world of constant liability for giant entertainment companies like this. That's why WWE isn't running events. They're not doing it because it's not safe either.
You know, I think in retrospect, I'd like to see that woman retroactively lose. Because, like,
you know what? I would like to see you lose.
I would. Like, that's, God, it takes some real, like, you gotta be a not so hot person, let's say that, to do that to yourself. But listen, let's address the question directly. Why are Trump rallies having mass gatherings and WWE is not? Because Trump is making a defiant, definitive statement that the virus isn't as bad as it may be portrayed. WWE would absolutely positively do the same thing. However, they have many employees and performers who don't all share that viewpoint.
And they have business partners that don't share that viewpoint.
Exactly. It's not to say that, like, they don't want to. I think Vince would have liked to have a WrestleMania.
I mean, I don't speak for him. I don't think there's people in WWE that want to do it.
I said I think. I'm not saying I speak for him. I'm saying I think he would have liked to do it. I think there's plenty of people in WWE.
How many people love to put words in Vince McMahon's mouth that have never met him?
Plenty, but that's because we established this idea of him. So we affix these words to the idea.
The myth of Vince, not Mr. McMahon. Vince.
I don't know who Vince McMahon is on his off time. Maybe he's relaxing in his pool right now. I don't know, but like I'm saying, from everything
he doesn't relax. What are you talking about? How dare you say Vince McMahon relax?
You see,
that is an insult, Robert.
See,
How dare you?
You're affixing values to the myth of Vince McMahon. You just did it right there. Thank you for proving my point.
Exactly. Oh, there was a real doozy of one last night that said Vince is punishing these NXT superstars with retribution. He's punishing them because they were in NXT, and he's doing this to hurt NXT. He's taking these people from NXT, putting them on Monday Night Raw with new gimmicks to hurt NXT. He's doing this because NXT needs to be punished.
He's doing it because he saw
that is the dumbest, idiotic. I'm just gonna run through the world with my eyes and my ears closed, thinking anything I want, yelling everything I want. That is the most childish, dumbest. I'm just gonna believe my own stuff. My butt is a soft serve ice cream maker. That's what you're thinking right there, man. That is the worst. It's the worst thing I've seen on the internet all week.
That person may very well be the smartest person in the whole flat world, Kevin.
Oh, shut. You started that. I was like, oh, shut. Oh, okay, are you?
You see?
No. So where do you see WWE here on the road to Survivor Series?
We gotta have people. By the way, my mind says we have to have some form of a crowd by the Royal Rumble. I cannot imagine a Royal Rumble without an audience.
And a Royal Rumble is a hard event to do with so many people in the ring, right? But I mean, I would say WWE has at least they have a testing protocol. They're catching positive cases. You know,
no, this is the year.
I'm talking for in-ring talent. I don't know how you test a crowd. I mean, they tested those fans that attend those NXT tapings at the Capitol Wrestling Center, which is a separate bubble, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, do you do something on a small scale with maybe 1,000 people and you test them and have them come out to the event? Like the logistics of it are through the roof.
First of all, let's cover the how do we get 30 men and 30 women in one match? This is the year that you have Bobby Lashley chuck out 15 people one by one. Like that's just what you do. And then when you get down to like the core 10, then you got something good going. Or like you have Bianca just throwing fools all day. And then when you get down to the core 10, you're good to go. I think we have fans by the Royal Rumble. I think we have AEW fans a lot sooner. And that is what it is.
The chat attack, really appreciated you and your flat world comment there. You appreciated that quite a bit. Other people was their comments about the different shows this week. James Espanto Fernando. Oh, I got to do it again. It ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right. Get it together, Kevin. Get it together. Do it. James Espanto Fernando Taguay says the Royal Rumble is nothing without a crowd. That event is nothing without a crowd.
So, like, I think this year has kind of proven that maybe crowds are more important than we thought, that in some cases, maybe they're not. Like, we have seen, like, a full calendar year almost of no audience shows. Like,
and the thing is, like I said, this is this weird transitional period. What if we have a Royal Rumble, limited fans just for that, but then we're back in the Thunderdome, virtual fans? I think some people get really upset about that once they get a taste of a real organic crowd reaction, you know? And I don't know, you know, it's going to be really, really difficult to do. And the next 6 weeks are going to be very interesting to see how wrestling responds to the real world around them.
Listen, Kevin, I've been buying organic recently. Stuff goes bad real quick. I don't know if we want a real organic experience.
Come on now, Robert. So you got me with the flat earth one, but you're reaching with that one, okay? You're reaching with that one, pal.
I applied a real life experience to that.
It's a Tuesday episode, so we're getting ready for what's going on with WWE, NXT, and AEW. What are you looking forward to on this week's Wednesday night offerings? We're getting the Halloween Havoc.
I'm looking forward to the one that I can't provide my full attention towards, and that's Halloween Havoc.
All right, so you're like me. You get the card where you get AEW on Wednesdays, and then you watch NXT later on. But the thing with me is I got to do that live post show. I do it with John Clark at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. We'll make sure your notifications are on Facebook and YouTube. You guys can join us, and we'll watch it. And he tells me all these cool things in NXT, and then I'm kind of like catching up. I think this is a week we're going to do the 2-screen world. I'm going to try and watch both at the same time. And
I think
maybe
Halloween
not fry
Havoc
my brain.
is a must see. I think Halloween Havoc is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody's going to dress up like a Yeti. I think
the Yeti.
I think, listen, this would be the one event that if Tony Schiavone wasn't under contract, that they would have flown him in for this.
This is one of the greatest nights in our proud sport.
I think Shotzi, Elvira, you're gonna have some major Elvira vibes. Like, I can see Johnny and Candice being maybe Mickey and Minnie. I don't know what they're gonna dress up as, but it'll be cute. It'll be great. It'll fit the Gargano way. I'm very excited for just the aesthetic of Halloween Havoc. Over on the other channel, we've got the town hall that will follow the musical doodle that was MJF and Chris Jericho singing My Shadow and Me from the Rat Pack. One day we need to get Dominic D'Angelo on this podcast to just break down that segment and how true it was to the Rat Pack.
Check them out Fridays, the two Dynamite dudes with attitudes.
I think, listen, it was a fun segment. I never want to see it again. If they even try to break out a song tomorrow, whether or not they just say, hey, don't do that. Stop it. But like, don't do it. Don't even go there. It was fine as a one-off. Never do it again.
Come on now, Robert. Are you going to say they're going to say no to indulging themselves?
Well, Chris Jericho is a little bit busy right now on Instagram coloring in his hair with his iPhone.
What is that? What happened there? What happened there?
I love Chris Jericho.
What happened?
Let me just say this.
Preface. Do your preface.
Let me just preface this by saying I think Chris Jericho has made a strong, strong candidate for the GOAT conversation. I think Chris Jericho has made a strong, strong case that he is one of the best to ever exist in the game. I don't know what the hell's going on with Chris Jericho. He is having a midlife crisis, the likes of which we have never seen. This guy colored in his hair on Instagram using the paintbrush tool on your iPhone. It looks weird. It's all over the internet. He told Andrew Yang the reason he looks so good is because he's pickled in vodka. And I think if that same statement came out of the mouth of Jeff Hardy, we'd be very concerned. I love Jericho. He is the greatest performer of the last 20 years.
All right, so what's the problem? You've been prefacing here for a while.
He's absolutely just jerking himself off every Wednesday night. And listen, my screens are getting mighty sticky. I need you to stop jerking yourself off every Wednesday night. Stop doing it.
I think. Hey, I'm looking at my bed being a mess behind me. You guys look at my not so humble abode. But no, I'm thinking to myself here that is like we had John Clark saying, is this the week where NXT, because they're offering something unique and special, gets the edge on AEW? I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say it's good. I feel it'll be closer than people expect. I think it'll be interesting, but if the news cycle is crazy, it's out the window. Also, are they up against a Major League Baseball game tomorrow night? I think they might be.
They could be. No, and I said this on the Raw show last night. Mm-hmm. I think John's takes every single time I hear him speak are getting better and better and better. And if this was a fair world, NXT would take this week. Mm-hmm. But AEW's got too strong of a lead. They still have Jericho. They still have Moxley. They still have characters that overall feel like a big deal. NXT right now doesn't have characters that feel like a big
characters.
Deal. I didn't say they had characters. Listen, bro, we're going to spin the friggin' wheel and we're going to make the friggin' deal.
BROSSO!
I didn't come up with that gimmick. Personally, I'm hoping we get that stupid glove on a pole match. But we'll have to see where this thing lands. I think it'll be tremendous no matter what.
All right, Vince BROSSO spins the wheel. What other matches? What other Vince BROSSO matches would be on the NXT Halloween Havoc wheel?
All right, so you know how Johnny Gargano hates wheels? So it's going to be a wheel in every corner match. It's like you just put wheels, different kind of wheels. Ferris wheels, truck wheels,
cheese wheels.
Cheese wheels. I mean, Kevin, you can do so many different wheels in so many different corners. Oh, you know what else? Why not a Candice LeRae on a forklift match? I think, listen, we don't need a forklift for Candice because she's very light, but we'll do it anyway because it's funny, bro. It's ratings, bro. I see MJF and Chris Jericho over here singing Yankee Doodle Dandy, and I'm wondering why Indy Hartwell isn't coming out doing a tap dance for the Garganos. What's happening here? Why don't we have Cameron Grimes singing Pour Some Sugar on Me in a club with Damian Priest? I mean, I'm asking questions and I'm getting no answers. What is happening?
That'll win the war. That'll win the war right there. You tell him, bro. You tell him, bro. All right. I want you to de-channel the demon, Vince BROSSO, and return to us, Robert. Robert, you got to adjust your glasses. Your glasses went all wonky on you. There you go, pal.
Well, you know what
I'm showing pillows on my bed. We got glasses all over the place.
Well, you know what happens. You make me summon that character, and it turns everything upside down. The room gets dizzy, guys. I start seeing poles everywhere. It gets very strange.
Mm-hmm. People want to see pinwheels. They want to see a wheelchair match.
Now, when you say pinwheels, like, are we talking like the pepperoni deal, like the different topics?
It always comes back to food on this show. Somehow we're gonna get it back to food. But AEW NXT, once again, Wednesday nights are very, very interesting. Definitely some of the best wrestling night of the week on television, I think. They'll have a tough time following Hell in a Cell. I thought that was an amazing show.
They're not meant to follow Hell in a Cell.
I rewatched Roman Reigns and Jey Uso today. That match is incredible. That match is so goddamn good. And it was so good. And I think people are sleeping on it. I thought watching it, I'm like, oh, I'll say this. It was nearly as good as the Boneyard match. The Boneyard. You know the Boneyard? It was nearly as good as Undertaker and AJ Styles. I loved it. It was one of my favorite things WWE's done this year.
I'm glad you corrected the course, because the Boneyard match was a different thing entirely.
Talking Shopomania, bro.
Yeah. You know, that was an all right show, but the Roman versus Uso, they got a little in the indulgent side of things. That was starting to run a little bit long.
I agree. But,
However,
it worked. It worked for the story. It was okay.
When you have entities that can monologue, the way that Roman Reigns tapped into some emotions just to completely kill.
It was method acting. It was method acting in wrestling.
I just got a feeling that you don't learn that on the set of Hobbs and Shaw. So I don't know where he figured out that he was going to do that, but it's not. You don't get that doing a Fast and Furious movie. This was so good. Alpha and Sika crowning him the tribal chief was like one of the best visuals ever. Here's the problem, though. Does that mean that they're just assholes that are totally fine with Roman doing this to the rest of the family? Because
they respect his power. They respect power, Robert. So that is where wrestling stands this week. Why don't we jump into questions? It's a Tuesday show. We have a little less to cover. But while you're here, if you've watched this video and you haven't liked it, how dare you not support our free content that we're providing you? Go ahead and subscribe on whatever channel you get it on. On Facebook, that's where most people see our stuff. Thank you so much. But we want to keep growing. We want more people to watch, and we want to make things big here. I know this is the season where people maybe get into football, they get into something else, but we're still chugging along. We're always feeding the content machine. And podcast-wise, we have a lot of stuff for you guys to devour right now and take in.
The content machine scares me, Kevin.
The content machine scares you, but it has to be fed, Robert. It is a monster that has to be fed.
I spend my life feeding this thing. I'm worried that it's just going to eat me one day. You know, it's like go watch Borat 2.
While you guys get your questions ready, if you're with us live, go ahead and fire those off. We'll get it to as many as we can about the world of wrestling. I do want to remind you, Lillian Garcia speaks with us in the WWE Network show that she has rolling out. That interview is up now with Bill Pritchard. A really, really great interview with Matt McCarthy, former WWE writer, great comedian. You've seen him on a bunch of commercials about his new comedy album, Sober Dad. He also humor slams Hell in a Cell and a whole lot more. You can check him out on the We Watch Wrestling podcast. That is up in our podcast feed. WrestleZone, available on Spotify, available on Apple Music, iHeartRadio. All right, so if you're on those other apps, you listen to music, you slide right over. Don't worry, you have to flip into another podcast app or anything like that. And a bunch of stuff you can listen to on demand. If you miss one, we do like 5 or 6 shows for you every single week. So if you miss one and you just want to check out the question segment, you're like, oh, I already know the results. I don't need to listen to them. Go, usually like the last 20 minutes of every show, we're going to do questions. So you always have something you can listen to that is kind of evergreen, that isn't tied to what just happened that day. All right, I already read the news. I don't need to hear them talking about it. We're starting to make our content a little bit more flexible in that way. So please fire for questions, get involved, and tell your friends about it. If you don't want to share it on your feed, just pass it on. Tag somebody in the comments. Tag someone down there in the comments when you're watching, and maybe they'll check out the show as well. All right, thank you guys so much for checking that out. Let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into questions and different things that people have here. I do see a question from Mr. Esponto, who's with us all the time. I wanted to catch up on this here. People want to see Gangrel versus Damian Demento, NXT Halloween Havoc main event. That would be awesome.
You know what I don't want to see is Gangrel versus Damian.
I don't want to see that either.
I don't think Damian Demento do anything.
With Halloween Havoc, there's going to be a bunch of goofy stuff with it. Are they going to do anything that's really silly and fun on Halloween Havoc, you think, with maybe an old legend appearing? I think a Gangrel, a cameo, Boogeyman will show up.
Yeah, that was where I was going. Last year for Halloween, they did a 3-hour stream.
Yes.
With Boogeyman.
And it was just him. It was just him talking to the camera in a red light and him like playing with toys and stuff. It was very creepy. I remember doing a show with you that day. It was very creepy. It was quite creepy. James Esponto texting in said, "Big Cliff, Robert, what would you think if WWE holding a lottery for fans to buy tickets for the Rumble with the caveat that they will have to test negative for COVID-19 prior to attending shows?" I mean, this is a part of the first chunk of this episode that you guys are watching or listening to, was us talking about how with Tokyo Dome and New Japan, they're going forward the system and the way that the virus has been handled in Japan is completely different than the United States. I do think that's interesting, but you're still going to have a limited amount of people. I do think you can do something like that. I've heard talks of some events being ran like that in the early part of 2021, specifically with big name entertainment people. I can't say their names because I'm not supposed to know about it, and I know about it. That is an idea that has been tossed around. I do know
what exactly is happening with David Hasselhoff.
Well, we can't hassle the Hoff. Okay. All right. We cannot hassle the Hoff.
Fair enough.
But no, yeah, the big Baywatch reunion. They're gonna, yeah. So, no, I've heard about this before. And the way they've been doing this with some shows. I know some people that were on a network game show recently, and they got tested every day for 5 days leading up to it, and then got tested again the day they got there. So they were taking these PCR tests that are like $200 each, $250 each at some clinics you can go to, and they have a 15-minute turnover. So you're spending like a half an hour, 45 minutes to go get this test, take it, wait, be in a room by yourself. Then they tell you what you got, right? So I mean, you have a lot of people doing that. So I could see it, but you know, they have a limited version of this at the Capitol Wrestling Center. I think what they did at the Capitol Wrestling Center with limited fans is just a pre-version of what they think they can scale out in some way in that transitional period until we get back to real fans. There'll be a Thunderdome with fans. I think that's what we could be seeing at some point. Maybe that's what happens at Royal Rumble, but don't quote the WrestleZone guy on it. Let's get into some more questions here, Robert. All right. Flying by. Any updates on Kylie Ray? Kylie Ray. I'm reading this the way it's written. Kylie Ray was promoted to be a part of Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory pay-per-view this past Saturday on the 24th of October. Now the event went on, but she was not there. And Deonna Purrazzo hit the ring. They promoted the event. They ran videos on it. They filmed content here in Chicago. I know about that. And Kylie Ray wasn't there. Now, there's been speculation with Kylie Ray because she was one of the first big signees of AEW and was featured on their first pay-per-view, but then left the company under some very, I wouldn't say controversial circumstances, but just inconclusive circumstances. And then she returned to independent wrestling events and started wrestling for Impact Wrestling and signed a long-term deal with them. And now she's not in an event. Now, there's been some debate that that's a mental health issue or maybe it's a separate health issue. Now, with COVID, it's not clear. Now, she was supposed to appear on an event on October 10th in the Midwest and did not due to unforeseen circumstances. So, what is this situation? We don't know anything.
I'm gonna cut you off right there.
Do you know more?
Here's
do you know more than I do?
Here's the deal. Kylie was at the Collective. She did do. She was supposed to do the Black Label Pro show on October 11th. They pulled out due to unforeseen circumstances. At the time, she was citing an injury. Now, I'm going to quote directly here from Fightful Select. Okay. As of now, there is no official reason as to why Kylie was not on the Impact Bound for Glory show. Those Fightful spoke to in the company told Fightful that they thought the match was still going to happen as of Friday. Fightful has learned, according to several wrestlers, that Kylie drove in with said wrestlers to Nashville and was even inquiring about call times for Saturday to management. However, when those call times came, Kylie did not appear. We should specify members of the roster informed us that Kylie drove in, not Impact officially. Throughout Saturday, the concern from the locker room grew as nobody had heard from Kylie or even an update on her status throughout the afternoon. The decision to have Sue Young replace Kylie was made that afternoon. Talent has not been made aware of an injury, as rumored. She did withdraw from the Collective, citing an injury. Multiple wrestlers reached out to people close to Kylie out of fear for the worst, and we are told that she's alive and well. We've attempted to contact Impact, as well as Kylie, and will not speculate on the conditions of her absence. So, that's straight from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. So, essentially, she no-showed. We don't have a concrete reason. The important thing is she is alive, and we hope she's well.
Yes. Thank you for following up on it. Basically, I know people ask, and they just want a conclusive answer, and they want to know that she's okay. As far as we know, we don't know anything else beyond what we knew coming into Saturday. So I'm of the thought and hope that she's well, especially right now with everyone's worries about things in general. All right, so that is where that stands. Other questions from people coming in here. I want to get to this one here. Eric Big Gears Billups, Big Grills says, "Hey guys, what's your perspectives on the booking of Keith Lee? In my opinion, it feels like they have no direction for him right now. I don't think they have no direction for him right now. I just think they've cooled off a little bit because they brought him on to Monday Night Raw and he beat Randy Orton, the guy who's the WWE champion right now, clean at Payback a few months ago. And he's had some quite a bit of TV time. Yet now he's kind of in a mid-card feud with Braun Strowman. I think with modern fans, they just can't get the idea that someone debuts, cools off a little bit. They just want to see this guy come in and become the champion. And
hold on. But why, especially knowing what we know right now, why did you bring Keith Lee up from NXT to have him do a thing to cool him off? This is the problem that they have with NXT stuff. They want to give you that hot look, fresh out of the oven. It's Keith Lee. Look, we got a new guy.
But then they're gonna ruin it.
But then then they drag their feet, and the audience loses interest because they're made to believe. First of all, they changed the presentation up with he wears a shirt now, which you didn't always do. He did have an like a music issue, but that's a CFO $ thing instead of a Keith Lee thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bode right now. I would say it doesn't bode well, but like also they can always bounce back and go, "Hey, you don't remember that anyway, so it's okay." So it's like you don't remember.
I think Keith Lee is in a better position than people think he is.
I think Keith Lee is on television, and that means that he's in a better position than some.
Yeah, he's in a better position than a lot of people.
However, when he's given the keys to the kingdom by NXT, and if you're looking at NXT that could really have used a Keith Lee right now,
yes,
it makes you go, well, damn, if you weren't gonna.
Yeah, but they didn't know. They didn't know like 4 or 5 guys were going to get injured in a month.
But still, it's like it makes you mad because you go, we could have used a Keith Lee right now.
True. Tommy B with a question. You think Vince McMahon liked The Rock introducing Ken Shamrock in the Impact Hall of Fame? The Rock's never going to be in a WWE ring again if he did that.
No. Hold on. Let's have some fun with this.
Sure, let's have some fun.
Because for me, it wasn't so much that he sent in the video touting Shamrock's abilities and him being a pioneer of the Attitude Era, in The Rock's humble opinion, the greatest era in the history of pro wrestling. It was the fact that he then went on Twitter after Scott D'Amore said thank you to him and said, "Hey, keep up the good work and thank you for taking care of me on an indie show in 1997."
The thing is, because he doesn't need to remember those things. He doesn't need to do that. And it's almost, I wouldn't say an overcompensation, but just a way of him saying, like, I'm still a human being. Like, I'm still this guy who wanted to wrestle because my dad raised me in wrestling. My mom and my parents were involved in wrestling, and I just got into entertainment through that. Like he did more than he needed to. He could have said no. Ken, I can't do it. You know what I mean? He could have said no.
And instead, he publicly said yes.
And they did it on Twitter. And then he filmed it. And then he sent it to them. And they got to use that. That's probably the biggest thing that Access TV has had, too, by the way. So this isn't just Impact. This is their partners. They get to work with the biggest movie star in the world.
It's 2020. It's the Twilight Zone. We got to see The Rock on an official Impact broadcast. And I don't think that there's any way that you can say that isn't super cool.
Mm-hmm. Nick Fun with a question. We kind of covered this a little bit earlier in the show. How long is WWE going to stay in the Thunderdome? Well, we've reported there's a possibility they could be moving out sometime after Survivor Series, but there is some possibility they could be in there until the end of 2021. It looks like they want to be there until the end of 2021, but they could have conflicts with the other tenants in the building, specifically a hockey team. And if the NBA wants to start doing games back in arenas, then the Orlando Magic is going to be there. So that's where that stands. If you're watching our episode live, go wait for the on-demand. You can check that out a little bit later. Here we go. Why the hell, Dan Miller? Why the hell did Nikki lose her theme music? Is he talking about Nikki Cross?
Yes,
lose her theme music, but other superstars still have their theme music.
Okay, so let's so they are in a transition period from the CFO music. They want to get away from that. However,
that was a pair of producers that made a lot of music for NXT that you remember over the last few years, and then that kind of came over on SmackDown.
However, it seems like some people, like a Matt Riddle, did keep his theme. I don't know how much say the wrestlers have in that. Nikki Cross's theme is super generic, like, you know, Iron Mike Sharp coming out on Superstars style music, but like, I'm here for it.
Man, people are losing their minds here on, are they going to do this? Are they going to do this? So many different questions. Trying to keep up with them here. And any updates on Kylie Ray? We already covered that. Want to make sure I get all your questions here. If I'm not missing
Nick
anything.
Fund asks, where is WWE going next? To that, I ask you, Nick, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Great. One of the greatest PBS television shows of all time.
All right. I just wanted to get that in.
Yeah. The game show version of Carmen Sandiego, incredible. One of the best kids PC video games.
Absolutely.
As well. This question: what is an old episode, a Raw or SmackDown or anything else that you always see yourself going back to? What an old show you always want to go back to? I want to say, if you want to watch Halloween Havoc 1998, a 3-hour chore. But a ridiculous show, and certainly a slice of pop culture in 1998. A lot of fun fashion statements in the crowd. You get to see a Hulk Hogan in the Ultimate Warrior in one of the most disappointing main events of all time. But Robert and I watch it with you. We don't have the audio on the podcast feed, but you can watch it on Facebook or YouTube. Put it on one screen and then open up the other tab and watch it on the network, and we'll be there with you the whole time. You can sync it up. It's pretty fun. I've been watching some old Halloween Havocs. I got to watch Halloween Havoc 1989, I'm told, is a really special show to watch out in a while. Maybe that's the show I'm going to check out tonight.
Well, I would say this. First of all, the chat attack on YouTube, appreciate your question. This is a really fun one. Cheap plug out of the way. As far as old SmackDown stuff, I am currently doing a podcast series where myself and Callum Wiggins review 2002 SmackDown stuff, and there's a lot that I love from that era. But I will say this. Here's an old pay-per-view and an old match that I find myself going back to every time I'm bored. Mm-hmm. In your house, the Final Four, specifically the main event, it's Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Undertaker, and Vader, and they beat the holy hell out of one another. And that is my favorite multi-man match, and I suggest that you all go and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Michael Loff wants to know, will there be a War Games this year?
War Games! Sorry.
War Games!
Sorry.
Wait, excuse me, Robert. War Games! Will there be a War Games? War Games, the infamous NWA staple, 2 cages, a elimination style match.
I will say this: when I got bored last night watching Raw, I put on the 1992 War Games match, which saw the Dangerous Alliance take on Sting Squadron. I love War Games. I think it's one of the best gimmick matches ever. Will there be a War Games this year? Certainly looks like it, because Pat McAfee suddenly has a crew of people to take inside of the cage to go up against the Undisputed Era. Maybe in December. Maybe they push it back. But it's kind of odd. I saw a question here. I can't remember who shut it out there. Am I disappointed that NXT is not going to be part of Survivor Series this year, with it just being Raw versus SmackDown? Absolutely. I think this is a big bummer. I thought that was a really, really cool part of last year's Survivor Series, to see NXT people in the mix with Raw and SmackDown, not being treated as the other. I went to the show live. It was one of my favorite WWE shows I've been to live. I thought it was a really, really special moment to see Rhea Ripley win, Keith Lee kind of hang in the mix with Roman Reigns. The Daniel Bryan match with Bray Wyatt was very interesting as well. This was a really, really strong card. Maybe go check that pay-per-view out before you watch this year's Survivor Series. So that's where things stand right now. If you enjoyed the show, hit the like button, give it a share, pass it along. All right, pass it along.
All right. And subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. If you like us already on Facebook, you have to follow us, and then you get the notifications. YouTube, like, subscribe, notification, ding on. And then go ahead and subscribe to the podcast feed as well for all those exclusive interviews that we keep telling you about. Robert, if they want to follow you, where do they go?
You can go to a lot of places. First of all, I'm on Twitter at DudeFleece. If you want to check out everything I'm doing, I am here in the zone Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on the podcast feed. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday doing the news. Put up a lot of fun stuff today. Put up stuff about Bailey saying that she's worried her legacy is too reliant on her relationship with Sasha. I think it's a great quote from Chronicle. I'm also over on Spark Out Moment. You can check out their YouTube channel and support their merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. Mm-hmm. And I'm also over on Fightful.com. Fightful, as I read earlier in the episode, great news website. Sean Rossap works very hard on stories that we do our best to make sure they are completely reliable and credible. And I'm over on Fightful Friday through Sunday. I'll probably be alone this weekend on Fightful, so, come check it out and give your boy some love.
You can check me out here on WrestleZone Wrap-Up. We also have pop-up videos coming up now, breaking news flash videos. So another reason to have those notifications on, as we did one earlier today about this big story with New Japan Pro Wrestling and their big confirmation of a 20,000 capacity event at Tokyo Dome. So we're going to start doing those. Check those out. Watch them, share them, all that good stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at Kev Kellum, And this Thursday, I'll be at Fight TV's special event with AAW Alive. This will be a very, very cool event featuring Mance Warner in tag team action in the main event. Great independent wrestling events, very violent, very cool, out there, wild wrestling. Matthew Justice versus Jake Christ. I expect pure madness in that. Last show, they had someone take a Death Valley driver 20 feet in the air off a cherry picker through a door in the ring. Okay, that happened at the last show. What do you think is going to happen this Thursday? You can get that event on
first
Fight
of all,
TV.
I'm surprised that you have confirmed and committed that you will be taking a Death Valley driver on Fight TV.
No. Stop, Robert. Stop the thing. Stop, Robert.
Somebody find me Mance Warner's Vimeo.
Me and the Mance are cool, dude.
Let me get his Venmo so I can pay him some money to put Kevin through.
I don't want to go to the pay window. No,
I'll buy him a 6-pack.
No. I keep his beers cold. Have you seen the promo where I keep his beer cold, Robert? Have you seen it?
I have, but
I did such a good job. He was all beat up and stuff after his match that he won. Then he came over and he said, "Kev, you're new. Keep my beer cold." And I held his beer and I kept it cold while he said the thing to the camera.
Listen, but you committed. I don't make the rules. You committed to taking a Death Valley driver on Thursday on Fight TV.
No, I did not. I did not commit to that. No.
Everybody tune in to see that.
I also had a segment I had to film with Sky Blue, very, very fun up and coming wrestler, and she was not fond of the catchphrase. I pitched her a catchphrase that she could use, and she did not think that was cool, and had no problem embarrassing me on camera. So you can check that out. It's all on my Twitter right now. AA Wrestling Alive, AAW.com, AAWrestling.com, excuse me. Go there, get the event, all the info, and watch it on fight.tv anywhere in the world for $13. Anywhere in the world, $13. Great independent wrestling. If you didn't want to watch all that other stuff, and you're like, I only want to follow it. I don't care about it. Give me the hardcore stuff. We're going to be something hardcore. It's going to be really, really cool. AAW Alive this Thursday on fight.tv. Get all the info there. Thank you guys so much for following along. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for all the good stuff that you guys are doing. We have some people who just said they followed you on Twitter, Robert. So cool.
Thanks to the chat attack. I hope to see you again. We want to grow the YouTube, and we appreciate your support. And I see another question here. I'll answer this real quick. Am I playing 2K Battlegrounds? At times, when some friends want to throw down, I will throw down.
Should I get the game and throw down with you?
I Black Friday's a thing.
Is that Steam? You can get
it on Steam. I have what on.
I need to get the controller, right? You've been.
I would very much advise getting a controller.
All right, so I'm ready to get in there. I have to kick your ass, Robert. I'm gonna train up. I got to level my guy up, though, right? I can't just go in there.
No,
No?
there's some people you can pick right out of the gate.
Okay, all right. See, I just want to pick it up and play. I don't want to get lost in it, all that fun stuff. Robert, tell them what they got to do when they're watching the wrestling.
Guys, when you're watching wrestling, do this one thing.
Yep.
Smack down your vote. Two things.
Smack down your vote.
Smack down your vote, first of all.
Smack down your vote.
Smack down your damn vote.
Eat your vegetables raw.
No.
Impact your vitamins.
All right, I'm going to cut you off here. And
make your friends elite.
That's what they did. Enjoy wrestling.